Good afternoon. I just want to talk really quickly about Tim Walz military service controversy. Without getting too much into the political views and issues, let's just focus on this, where he said he claimed armed service, but he served in Italy. That was during OIF, or Operation Iraqi Freedom, and OEF, Operation Enduring Freedom. He retired at the rank. He was an E8, but at one point E9 was thrown around out there after he got out. So was that another misspeaking? I don't know that I've ever met anybody who's been in the military that misspoke about what rank they were, that kind of thing you usually know. So that's a little weird. But he continued to trade off of that rank, E9, Command Sergeant Major, while he was in politics. So is it a question of integrity? What about his intellect? I don't think he's presidential material, but you can judge for yourself. Here's his Wikipedia page, which is, of course, somewhat favorable to him. It says rank, Command Sergeant Major. Now, Command Sergeant Major is an E9 rank, and there's actually three of them. There's Sergeant Major, Command Sergeant Major, both E9s, and then there's actually the Sergeant Major of the Army. That's only one position. One guy holds that. Same thing for all the services. They have a senior enlisted advisor. That's what a Command Sergeant Major does. And all services have one of them, and only one. But they're all E9s. So what was the controversy? Well, he served as an E8 and then was frocked. That's when they temporarily promote somebody to the next rank. Frocked as an E9, and the condition was he had to finish the professional military education and serve 2 years in that rank to be able to retire at that rank. He served 1 year. For whatever reason, he didn't complete the education. He didn't deploy onward. He submitted his retirement papers and just got out. So a combination of not wanting to deploy and not wanting to complete those requirements, he just got out because he thought he had better opportunities in the civilian world. Okay, whatever. I mean, also because he got out 1 year short of being able to keep that sergeant major rank for retirement, he missed out on a higher paycheck for retirement, but maybe he didn't care about that. So he did get into Congress. So for him, maybe that was it. But this bit about him misspeaking, though. Okay, you misspeak about where you might have been or using weapons of war that I carried in war, tap dance, okay, whatever. Nobody misspeaks about their rank. And if you do, I don't know that many people are going to buy it. So here he is talking about my grammar's not always correct. Yeah, well, my grammar's not always correct too, but I knew what rank I was. So then the other thing is, it's a head scratcher politically, have your facts straight. So what? So you're retired E8, big deal. But instead he does this. He puts out this Tim Walz House of Representative challenge coin. Now, challenge coin, for those who don't know, is a coin that's produced by units or sometimes high-ranking individuals like generals and command sergeant major, and they'll use those to give out at meetings and dog and pony shows. If some private's giving a presentation afterwards, the general might come up, "Oh, nice job, son. Where you from? Here, have a coin." I got one of those from a general one time. Still have it. Sergeant major can do that too, command sergeant major. But if you're not a command sergeant major, then you don't put that on your coin. And this isn't even while he's in the military. This is afterwards. He's in Congress. He's presenting himself as this command sergeant major. And just to illustrate, here he is again. This is command sergeant major is right there in the rank structure. Sergeant major, E9s, both E9 ranks, but he was an E8. So he was a E8 master sergeant or first sergeant. I think he was a master sergeant working a staff job, not permanently promoted and certainly not retired as a sergeant major. And he definitely was not sergeant major of the Army. So that was kind of dumb. Well, of course, this is all an attack on his military record. No, it's not. Factcheck.org is Annenberg Public Policy Center, tends to be left-leaning. Of course, they're going to do whatever they can to run defense on the guys. So you can read through this and get all the information. Some things I didn't know about him. He was actually an artillery guy, 13 Bravo. I think that in here. Yeah. His occupational specialties were 13 Bravo, a cannon crew member who operates and maintains cannons, and 13 Zulu, field artillery senior sergeant. So he was a 13 Zulu E8. But 13 Bravo, anybody who's been in knows that cannon crew member, it's one of the lowest requirement jobs to get into in the Army. Yeah, lower than infantry, and I know I was infantry. The scores for this just aren't that high. You can ask a recruiter, and they'll tell you, the ASVAB requirement for a field artillery guy, 13 Bravo, is a FA 93. They didn't even go by the GT score, which is usually the one everybody cares about. To be a GT of above 110, you can get any job in the Army. But for field artillery, they have their own score, FA 93, and that is a composite of a number of other scores that get put together. Field artillery uses AR, arithmetic reasoning, CS, which I couldn't find any current website explaining what that score is. Even the Army doesn't know what their own test is, but CS, I know because back when I took the ASVAB, it was on there. CS is coding speed. MK is mathematical knowledge. MC is mechanical comprehension, I think. But regardless, the ASVAB Okay, these are the different ones they go by. And like I said before, GT is usually the one that they pay attention to for all the jobs. If you get over 110, you're good to go. And I don't know what his GT was, but his ASVAB, he should have an ASVAB number, which is the general score from 0 through 99 or 100. And if you get a minimum 31, you can join the Army. But if you're a 31, that means you scored 31 percentile out of all the people who took that test. So that's pretty low. I'm not bragging, but I got a 90 and I didn't think the test was all that difficult. My GT was a 125. And I don't know what my FA was. I wasn't interested in joining field artillery, but I'm sure I could dig through my records and maybe find it. But I looked through and I found CS actually means coding speed. So this is an old document. I had to find this archive to figure out what the Army actually meant about their own tests. But regardless, he took the test. He was a 13 Bravo his whole career. Ask an officer who was in 13 series and they can tell you. The 13 series and another one, supply, for some reason. They have low requirements to join, and they tend to have a lot of interesting characters in there. But regardless, so let's say he scored really high. It doesn't necessarily tell you anything about his intelligence and Mensa. This is the High IQ Society will not accept an ASVAB score for proof that you are a smart guy, because I don't think the test existed before 1980. And you can see by all these cutoffs here, they stopped accepting all these tests around 1980. Something happened. If you took the Army ASVAB and you got or whatever the test was, and you got a GT before 1980 of a 136 or above, they would let you in. After 1980, which is when I took it, they won't let you in. So something's happened to the test. I heard that the government didn't want them using that test. Who knows? I don't know why that would be. But there's other things that happened with the smart guy tests. The LSAT used to be, well, I guess you can get in with your LSAT if you're in the 95th percentile. That's near the top. That's a pretty tough test to score that highly on. So that's justifiable. The SAT, though, however, SAT has been so watered down. If you took it after 1994, it doesn't matter what you scored. They will not accept that as proof that you are a smart guy. Just interesting to note. But aside from intellect with Tim Walz, let's just say he's got it. His integrity is what seems to be discussed here. And there's a panel of people who used to work with him. These guys here, they served with him, Tim Walz, in the National Guard. They're criticizing for leaving the National Guard shortly before his unit deployed. I mean, you're putting in to be a sergeant major, and you're okay with it until you find out you're going to get deployed, and then you cut and run and go to Washington. I've never seen another panel like this. This is Megan Fox, who used to be, Megan Kelly, who used to be in Fox News. And it got me thinking, anytime anybody else has run for political office and had military experience, it was usually either one term as a private and they didn't really talk about it, or they were a retired officer. There's been no retired enlisted or senior enlisted guys who've served. I asked ChatGPT to come up with some notable people, and I see it did. It said, name some notable senior enlisted members of the American military, particularly anybody who went into a career in politics. And I got 5 of the sergeants major of the Marines, of the Army and the Marines. So these are the 5. This is sergeant major of the Army. There's only one guy who serves that term, and that's the senior enlisted advisor in the entire Army. He advises the top brass in Washington, D.C. about enlisted matters. Okay, but none of them ever went to elected office. And I haven't, it just ChatGPT just puked up the top 5 enlisted names you could find, but nobody's ever been into elected office except Tim Walz as a retired E8, ostensibly, and I haven't seen anything otherwise, is the highest ranking retired enlisted member ever to serve in Congress. All right, well, that doesn't necessarily mean anything because no one else has done it. Maybe it hasn't been a good path. Maybe it's not the right path to be president either. I don't know that we need a retired sergeant major who's interested in keeping people from walking on the grass and lining up the fronts of Humvees down at the motor pool. I'm just kidding. They do more than that, but you get to that level, it doesn't necessarily make you a better candidate for president. So that's where we are. I think it's not really going to go anywhere, but we'll see. Any comments? I'd love to hear them.